In the Horn of Africa, a war is unfolding, one without official battles or front lines, but with consequences that ripple through border communities and diplomatic circles. Ethiopia's secret war for the sea is a high-stakes contest with Eritrea, fought not in open combat, but through proxies, covert actions, and strategic maneuvers. The world sees little, but the region feels everything. Troop mobilizations, armed militias, and sharp rhetoric signal two nations on a collision course. Ethiopia, with over 120 million people, is determined to break free from its landlocked status, a situation its leaders call intolerable. Eritrea, fiercely protective of its hard-won coastline, views Ethiopia's ambitions as an existential threat. This is a modern gray zone conflict, attrition by economic pressure, information warfare, and proxy militias, all under a veil of plausible deniability. Every move is calculated, each diplomatic deal or armed group a piece in a larger game. The Red Sea's stability is at stake, with global trade and millions of lives hanging in the balance. Regional powers watch closely, ready to defend their interests in this volatile corridor. The fate of the Horn of Africa depends on how and when this tension finally erupts. The question is not if the silence will break, but who will pay the price when it does. The Red Sea is a global artery. It's Bab el-Mandeb Strait, a choke point for 12% of world trade and vital energy shipments. Instability here, as seen with recent Houthi attacks, disrupts economies worldwide. For Ethiopia, the Red Sea is more than commerce. It's a matter of survival. Dependent on Djibouti's port, Ethiopia spends up to $2 billion annually, draining its economy. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed calls this dependency a geographical prison, vowing Ethiopia will not remain landlocked. The government's focus is on Eritrea's Assab port, just 75 kilometers from the border, a symbol of lost access and national aspiration. Eritrea, led by President Isaias Afwerki, sees its coastline as the core of its sovereignty and identity, refusing to cede control. This clash, Ethiopia's need for a port versus Eritrea's defense of its coast, has turned the Red Sea into a flashpoint for regional power. Ethiopia and Eritrea's rivalry is rooted in decades of war, shifting alliances, and deep mistrust. Eritrea's 1993 independence left Ethiopia landlocked, and initial cooperation quickly soured over borders and economics. The 1998-2000 war, sparked by a border dispute, killed tens of thousands and entrenched animosity. A peace deal awarded disputed land to Eritrea, but Ethiopia refused to accept it, leading to a frozen stalemate. In 2018, Abiy Ahmed's rapprochement with Isaias Afwerki briefly thawed relations, united by a common enemy, the TPLF. But after the Tigray War ended, Eritrea was sidelined from peace talks, and Ethiopia's renewed push for sea access reignited old hostilities. The rivalry, shaped by war and failed peace, now fuels today's proxy conflict. Both nations avoid direct war, opting instead for a shadowy proxy conflict. Ethiopia backs militias in Afar and Amhara, creating instability along the Eritrean border without deploying its army. Eritrea, in turn, is accused of supporting anti-government groups inside Ethiopia, including TPLF factions. The conflict extends beyond armed proxies. Ethiopia's port deal with Somaliland bypasses Eritrea, isolating Asmara diplomatically. Covert operations, from cyber attacks to sabotage, keep both sides on edge and resources stretched. Intelligence gathering and support for dissidents are routine, each side seeking to destabilize the other from within. Every move is designed to apply pressure while avoiding open war. The result is a dangerous, high-stakes game where peace and conflict blur. The proxy war drains both nations, destabilizes the region, and keeps the world guessing. The stakes rise with every covert action and diplomatic gambit. The shadow war is relentless, and escalation is always a risk. In the past year, the proxy conflict has edged closer to open war. Ethiopia's warnings of imminent conflict, troop buildups near Assab, and high-profile military visits have heightened tensions. Eritrea has responded with its own mobilizations and provocative missile tests off Assab's coast. Formal accusations at the UN and public threats have shattered any remaining calm, creating a cycle of escalation. Each move and countermove brings the region closer to a dangerous tipping point. A new war would be catastrophic for the Horn of Africa, still scarred by the Tigray conflict's mass displacement and famine. Civilians in Tigray, Afar, and Amhara would again face violence and starvation. The conflict would not stay contained. Egypt, the Gulf states, and Turkey all have stakes in the region's stability and could be drawn in. Egypt, already at odds with Ethiopia over the Nile, sees Eritrea as a potential ally. Gulf states and Turkey, with investments and military interests, would be forced to choose sides or risk their assets. The risk: a local war spiraling into a regional crisis, with refugees, weapons, and instability spreading across borders. Preventing open war is not just a regional priority, it's a global one. Ethiopia's approach is to pressure Eritrea into negotiation, not invasion. By signing deals with Somaliland and courting global powers, Ethiopia signals it can bypass Eritrea, isolating Asmara diplomatically. The government frames its quest for sea access as a legitimate economic need seeking international support. Meanwhile, alleged support for armed groups near Eritrea's borders creates security headaches for Asmara, draining its resources. The strategy is risky. Proxy groups are unpredictable, and pressure could provoke a preemptive Eritrean strike. Ethiopia walks a tightrope, hoping to force a deal without triggering war. But miscalculation could turn pressure into open conflict. The stakes for both sides and the region are enormous. The Horn of Africa faces three futures. First, escalation. One misstep could trigger a devastating war, worse than past conflicts. Second, stalemate, a prolonged proxy war, draining economies and keeping millions in limbo. Third, peace, requiring compromise, international mediation, and a deal granting Ethiopia port access in exchange for economic benefits and secure borders. The African Union or global powers could help broker a solution, but the real choice lies with Ethiopia and Eritrea's leaders. The pressures for war are immense, but the rewards of peace, stability, and prosperity are greater. The world can encourage diplomacy, but only local leaders can end the cycle. Their decision will shape the region's future. The invisible war for the Red Sea is at a breaking point. Ethiopia's quest for sea access and Eritrea's defense of its coast have brought both nations to the edge. A full-scale war would devastate the region, disrupt global trade, and create a humanitarian disaster. Even without open war, ongoing proxy conflict means perpetual instability and lost opportunities for millions. The cycle of action and reaction traps both countries in a vortex of violence. The ultimate question: will the Red Sea's future be decided by diplomacy or by war? The answer will define the legacy of today's leaders and the fate of the Horn of Africa. For those living on the front lines, it's a matter of survival.